Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
She left symbols on my skin after every encounter. I'm starting to decode the warning. The marks appeared harmless at first. Now they glow when danger approaches. Was she trying to protect me or mark me as prey? The observatory's silence was broken only by the hum of cooling systems and my own breathing. 3 years of monitoring deep space communications, and tonight felt different. The signal patterns dancing across my screens weren't random. They pulsed with deliberate rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Computer, isolate frequency 7.2 gigahertz. I whispered, though no one else worked the night shift at Meridian Station. The response was immediate. A crystalline tone filled the chamber, and the air shimmered. She materialized slowly, like water becoming solid, tall, luminescent, with skin that seemed to contain galaxies. Her eyes were the color of nebulae, shifting from purple to silver. "Kael Voss," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made my bones vibrate. "I have been searching for you." I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt drawn to her, as if we'd met in dreams I couldn't remember. "Who are you?" "I am Lyralynn of the Astral Tide. My people, we are dying." Her form flickered, becoming more solid as she spoke. "The devourers come, and we need an anchor in this dimension." She approached, each step leaving tiny stars in the air. When she touched my forearm, warmth spread through my skin. Where her fingers traced, symbols appeared, geometric patterns that seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them. "What did you do to me?" "I have marked you as mine," she said, her expression unreadable. "The first of many gifts." Before I could respond, she dissolved into stardust, leaving only the faint scent of ozone and the glowing marks on my skin. The symbols pulsed once, then faded to a soft silver that matched my skin tone perfectly. I spent the rest of the night staring at my arm, wondering if I'd lost my mind. 3 weeks passed before Lyralynn returned. I'd almost convinced myself she was a hallucination brought on by too much caffeine and isolation. The symbols had remained, though, faint traceries across my forearm that only I could see, until the night they saved my life. I was walking home from the observatory when the marks suddenly blazed to life, casting silver light through my jacket sleeve. The geometric patterns writhed like living things, and heat flooded my arm. Every instinct screamed danger. I dove behind a parked hovercar just as the street exploded in plasma fire. Through the smoke, I saw them, creatures of shadow and hunger, with too many teeth and eyes like black holes. The devourers. They moved wrong, as if they existed in more dimensions than I could perceive. "Run, Kael," Lyralynn's voice whispered in my mind, though she was nowhere to be seen. "They hunger for marked flesh." The symbols on my arm pulsed brighter, creating a barrier of light around me. The creatures hissed and retreated, but I could feel their attention like ice water in my veins. They knew I was here. I ran through empty streets, the marks guiding me with their warmth. Every turn felt predetermined, as if the symbols themselves knew the safest path. When I finally reached my apartment, they dimmed to their usual faint glow. Lyralynn materialized in my living room, her luminescent form more solid than before. "I am sorry. I did not know they had found you so quickly." "What are these things?" I gasped, still catching my breath. "My protections. My claim upon you, and now, perhaps, your doom." Her eyes held something I couldn't read, regret, fear, or something else entirely. "The devourers hunger for what links our dimensions. They will not stop hunting you." "There's more you're not telling me?" I said, pouring coffee with hands that still trembled. Dawn was breaking outside my window, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Lyralynn sat across from me, her form more human now but no less otherworldly. The starlight beneath her skin had dimmed to a soft glow. "My people are parasites, Kael. We survive by anchoring ourselves to other dimensions, drawing energy through the connections we create." The coffee cup slipped from my fingers, shattering on the floor. "So I'm what, your food source?" "No." Her voice carried desperate intensity. "You are my choice. In all the cosmos, across all the dimensions I have touched, you are the first to make me feel something beyond hunger." She reached across the table, and I didn't pull away when her fingers found mine. Where she touched, new symbols bloomed. Spirals and interconnected rings that felt warm against my skin. These marks, I said, watching them settle into silver lines across my knuckles. They're not just protection, are they? They are a bond. Each mark deepens our connection, allows me to exist more fully in your dimension. But they also make you a beacon for others of my kind, and for the devourers who hunt us. The symbols on my arm pulsed suddenly, and Lyralynn's head snapped toward the window. They come again. Closer this time. I could feel it too. A wrongness in the air, like reality bending under pressure. The new marks on my hands grew hot, and I realized with growing horror that I was starting to like the sensation. "You're changing me," I whispered. Her eyes met mine, filled with galaxies and guilt. "Yes, and I do not know if I can stop." The apartment building shook as something massive struck the roof. Plaster rained from the ceiling, and every piece of electronics in the room sparked and died. The symbols covering my arms blazed like brands, and the pain was exquisite. "We have to go," Lyralynn said, her form becoming more ethereal as reality warped around us. "They are too many this time." Through the walls I could see them, writhing shadows with geometries that hurt to perceive. The devourers moved like living darkness, consuming everything they touched. But they avoided the areas where my light shone brightest. "I can't keep running," I said, gritting my teeth against the burning in my skin. "These marks, they're spreading." It was true. Silver patterns now covered both arms, spiraling up toward my shoulders. Each new symbol brought with it a fragment of sensation that wasn't quite mine. Glimpses of cosmic voids, the taste of stellar wind, the loneliness of creatures who existed between dimensions. "Kael." Lyralynn's hand cupped my face, and her touch sent new marks blooming across my cheek. "I need you to understand. The bonding process, once it reaches your heart, you will no longer be entirely human." The building shuddered again. Somewhere above us, reality was tearing. "Will you still be you?" I asked. Her smile was sad and beautiful. "I do not know. I have never felt love before, Kael. It is changing me as well." The word hung between us like a star being born. Love. In the midst of cosmic horror and dimensional parasites, we were falling in love. "Then we figure it out together," I said, pulling her close as the world around us began to dissolve. The symbols on my skin sang with harmonics that made the devourers shriek and retreat. We materialized in the observatory's main chamber, the familiar hum of equipment a stark contrast to the chaos we'd left behind. But something was different. The walls were covered in symbols, the same patterns that marked my skin, carved deep into metal and stone. "This place," Lyralynn breathed, her form flickering with surprise. "It was prepared for us." I ran my fingers over the carved symbols, and they responded to my touch with warmth. "I don't understand. I've worked here for 3 years. These weren't here before." "Time works differently when dimensions bleed together," she said. "Your future self, perhaps. Or someone who knew what was coming." The observatory's central telescope swiveled on its own, pointing toward a region of space that should have been empty. But through the enhanced viewing system, I could see them, great ships of living shadow, moving between the stars like a plague. "The Devourer fleet," Lyralynn whispered. "They follow the dimensional bridges my people create. Every world we touch eventually falls to them." The symbols on my arms pulsed in rhythm with the carved patterns on the walls. I could feel the connection forming, not just between Lyralynn and me, but between this place and something vast and incomprehensible. "There's a reason you chose me," I said, understanding dawning like a cold star. "This isn't random, is it?" Her silence was answer enough. "The observatory doesn't just monitor deep space communications," I continued, watching her face. "It's an anchor point, a dimensional lighthouse, and I'm the keeper." "Kael, how long have you been watching me? Planning this?" The hurt in her eyes looked genuine, but I was beginning to understand that nothing about our meeting had been accidental. The symbols on my skin burned with the weight of predetermined fate. 2 years, Lyralynn admitted, her form becoming more translucent with shame. "I watched you for 2 years before making contact." The betrayal hit harder than the Devourer's psychic assault. I backed away from her, the symbols on my skin dimming in response to my emotional withdrawal. So this was all manipulation. The connection, the love you claimed to feel. It was just you securing your anchor. No. Her voice carried harmonics of pain that made the air shimmer. It began as necessity, yes. But what I feel for you, what you have awakened in me, that is real. She moved closer, her ethereal form solidifying with emotion. Where she stepped, small flowers of light bloomed on the observatory floor. My people do not love, Kael. We consume, we survive, we move to the next host when we have drained what we need. But you, she reached toward me, stopping just short of contact. You made me want to stay, to protect rather than consume. The symbols on my arms pulsed weakly, responding to her proximity despite my anger. I could feel her emotions bleeding through the connection. Genuine anguish, desperate hope, and beneath it all, something warm and fierce that might have been love. The devourers are coming because of me? I said, the truth settling heavy in my chest. My connection to you is drawing them here, yes, but it is also the only thing that can stop them. How? She finally touched me, her fingers tracing the silver patterns on my wrist. New symbols bloomed, more complex than any before, interconnected mandalas that seemed to contain entire universes. By completing the bond, by choosing to become what you were always meant to be, the marks reached my heart, and everything changed. The moment the symbols touched my heart, the universe exploded into meaning. I could see the dimensional web that connected all things, reality as a vast tapestry of intersecting planes, each thread vibrating with life and possibility. And I could see the devourers for what they truly were. They're not just predators, I gasped, falling to my knees as cosmic awareness flooded through me. They're antibodies, the universe's way of preventing dimensional bridges from spreading too far. Lyralynn knelt beside me, her form now completely solid, completely real. The transformation was affecting her too, making her more human even as it made me more than human. Yes, she said, her voice no longer carrying alien harmonics. My people upset the balance. We spread like infection, and the devourers follow to cleanse what we corrupt. The symbols covering my body had formed a complete pattern now, a living mandala that pulsed with each heartbeat. Through it, I could feel every devourer ship in the fleet, their hunger like acid in my mind. But there's another way, I realized, the knowledge coming from sources beyond my understanding. The anchor doesn't have to be parasitic. It can be symbiotic. Outside, the sky was darkening as the devourer fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. The observatory's instruments shrieked warnings that no one was left to hear. Show me, Lyralynn said, her hand finding mine. I stood, the silver patterns on my skin blazing like captured starlight. The carved symbols on the walls responded, creating a network of power that transformed the observatory into something far more than human technology. Instead of your people consuming dimensions, I said, we become translators, bridges between realities that strengthen rather than drain. The first devourer ship descended through the clouds, its shadow falling across the observatory like the wing of death itself. The devourer ship landed in the field beside the observatory, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. Through the observatory's enhanced sensors, I watched as figures emerged, tall, angular beings wreathed in shadows that moved independently of their forms. They're beautiful, I whispered, surprised by the realization. Terrible, but beautiful. Lyralynn's grip on my hand tightened. They will offer you a choice, Kael. They always do. Surrender the infected dimension, or watch your world burn. The symbols on my skin had spread to cover my entire body now, turning me into a living constellation. But instead of feeling alien, they felt like coming home. Through them, I could sense every living thing on Earth. Their fears, their dreams, their desperate hope for tomorrow. There's a third option, I said, understanding dawning like sunrise. We don't surrender or fight. We evolve. The lead devourer entered the observatory, its form shifting between dimensions. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Guardian of the bridge, it intoned. You have allowed infection to spread through your reality. The astral tide must be cleansed. The astral tide is changing, I replied, stepping forward. The symbols on my skin blazed brighter, and I felt Lyralynn's power flowing through me, transformed into something new. We offer symbiosis instead of parasitism, growth instead of consumption. The devourer tilted its head, studying me with eyes like black holes. Show us. I reached out with my transformed senses, touching the dimensional web that connected all realities. Instead of tearing holes for Lyralynn's people to feed through, I began weaving new patterns, bridges that strengthened the barriers between worlds while allowing controlled exchange. The devourer stepped back, its shadow wreath shifting to something that might have been surprise. This is new, it said. Your people, I said to the devourer. You're not just destroyers, you're gardeners. You prune the dimensional tree to keep it healthy. The being's form solidified slightly, becoming more comprehensible to human perception. We serve the balance. The astral tide and their kind disrupt the natural order. But what if they could serve it instead? I gestured to Lyralynn, whose form had stabilized into something between human and cosmic entity. The symbols covering both our bodies pulsed in harmony, creating patterns of light that made the air sing. We can be translators, Lyralynn said, her voice now carrying both human warmth and stellar music. Instead of draining dimensions, we can help them communicate, share knowledge, art, dreams, all the things that make existence meaningful. The devourer was silent for a long moment, consulting with its fleet through methods beyond human understanding. When it spoke again, its voice carried something that might have been hope. The compact has not been renewed in 10,000 years, but perhaps it is time. The compact? I asked. An ancient agreement between the devourers and the first guardians. They would maintain the dimensional bridges responsibly, and we would protect rather than destroy. The symbols on my skin flared as new understanding flooded through me. I wasn't the first guardian, just the latest in a line stretching back to the dawn of consciousness itself. The observatory, I realized. It wasn't built to monitor space. It was built to maintain the compact. And you, the devourer said, turning its attention to me, are the first guardian in millennia worthy of the title. Around us, the other devourer ships began to change, their hostile configurations shifting into something more protective. The fleet that had come to destroy was becoming a guardian armada. 6 months later, I stood in the transformed observatory, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The building had grown, organic architecture blending with human technology to create something entirely new. Visitors came from dozens of worlds now, drawn by the dimensional bridges we maintained. Lyralynn emerged from the quantum garden we'd planted in what used to be the parking lot. Her form had stabilized into something beautifully human while retaining the cosmic depths of her true nature. The symbols that covered both our bodies had evolved too, becoming less like marks and more like shared skin, a living tattoo of our bond. The Council of Tides wants to establish a new colony bridge, she said, settling beside me on the observation deck. They've found a dimension where the inhabitants are made of crystallized music. Sounds fascinating, I replied, tracing the spiral patterns on her wrist. Where I touched, new symbols bloomed, tiny stars that spelled out, "I love you," in the mathematical language of the cosmos. She laughed, the sound creating ripples of light in the air. You're getting better at that. Good thing, since we'll be together for the next few centuries. The guardian bond came with longevity, not immortality, but enough time to really explore what it meant to love someone whose existence spanned dimensions. The symbols on our skin had become a living record of our relationship, each mark a memory, a promise, a moment of connection. A Devourer scout ship passed overhead, its hull painted with symbols of greeting. They were our partners now, helping to maintain the balance we'd created. The former enemies had become friends, united in purpose. Do you ever regret it? Lyralynn asked, her head resting on my shoulder. Giving up your humanity for this? I considered the question, feeling the pulse of a dozen different realities through our shared connection. I was more than human now, but I was also more myself than I'd ever been. I didn't give up my humanity, I said, watching a flock of interdimensional butterflies dance through the morning air. I just learned to share it. The symbols on my skin pulsed once in agreement, and somewhere in the quantum foam between realities, The universe smiled.